Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the Electricity Renewable Preference Amendment Bill, and I commend Chris Hipkins for his initiative in bringing it forward in this House. The bill, or at least the issues underlying this bill, have, I think, had a strange, if not tortured, history in this House. Of course, the ancestral legislation is to be found in the 1992 UN Framework Convention for Climate Change and its derivative, the 1997 Kyoto Protocol. But its direct parentage is found in the 2002 Climate Change Response Act. The Act itself, that is before us, essentially began life only 2 years ago in the Labour government's 2008 Climate Change, Emissions Trading and Renewable Preferences Act. That bill, of course, introduced both the ETS and the original ban for 10 years on the thermal power plants. That bill, of course, was killed in infancy after only 1 year with the 2009 Repeal Act introduced by the current government. Now, 1 year after its premature death, the Labour Party seeks its reincarnation in the form of this 2010 Electricity Renewable Preferences Amendment Bill. So essentially this is a seesaw political game that we see so often between the two major parties that seek as much to score political points as to strike at a common underlying consensus that is necessary for us to proceed substantively with the overwhelming magnitude of the climate change problem. So we need to ask ourselves, what policy underlies this kind of vacillation in our House? Mr. Speaker, the answer is ideological differences. Both major parties, in fact all parties in this House except ACT, which is becoming increasingly schizoid on the subject, acknowledge climate change as a reality and the need for action. But the differences immediately appear. National claim that the market is sufficient to combat climate change and that the price signal sent out is sufficient enough. Nathan Guy speaks about this bill being a blunt and unnecessary instrument. He is wrong. He is wrong that you can rely on the price signal through the market alone. Certainly wrong if this government thinks that the current ETS moderated scheme is a good enough signal. But on that basis, they oppose any kind of interventionist policy such as this ban on thermal plants, generation plants. In addition, the government is worried about security of supply, and they want new thermal plants to underpin supply. They disregard the fact that these impede the switch to a low-carbon economy that they claim to want. For its part, the Labour Party believes that the ETS and the thermal ban will be sufficient, and in that they are closer to the mark. Chris Hipkins says that the bill would reaffirm New Zealand's commitment to climate change and turn New Zealand back into a world leader. With respect, I think that might be stretching it a trifle. But nonetheless, it certainly would be closer to the mark than the current government does in any way achieve things. For our part, Mr. Speaker, in the Green Party, we differ from Labour that we believe climate change is not just another problem that can be solved through more strenuous efforts at mitigation and adaptation within the prevailing economic model. We say that the overdeveloped world of the North, including Australasia, cannot and should not wish to continue with economic growth. Instead, we seek an economy that attains optimal scale rather than eternal growth. At that optimal scale, we find a dynamic equilibrium within an ecosystem rather than a necrotic production process that ignores the natural resource base at the pre-productive end and the waste disposal challenge at the post-productive end. But that said, let me just reiterate that the Green Party will support this bill, despite our reservations over the weakness of some of the clauses in the original 2007 bill, and therefore in the current version, we shall support it because it is simply better than the status quo. Thank you.